Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to begin with a roll call. Commissioner Strickman,
Present.
Commissioner Spranker,
Present.
Commissioner Loper,
Present.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Present.
Commissioner Lewis,
Present.
Commissioner Nelson,
Present.
and I'm the chair, Nancy Golden, present. I'd like to begin the meeting. I'm sorry, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. I'd like to begin the meeting with the opening statement. This commission is composed of Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on the commission as civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria and then forward our recommendations to the City Council. Our hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules of procedure and the Roberts Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the Commission adheres to the following steps. The chairman calls the case, staff gives a brief report and recommendations, applicant gives the presentation, opposition and support gives testimony, which will be limited tonight to 3 minutes per speaker. Applicant may give a rebuttal, and the commission discussion and decision. Anyone wishing to speak tonight must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant, who's at the very end of the table here. Please be brief as possible and do not repeat statements that have already been made by others. Anyone wishing to protest the decision of the commission's public hearing item must request a second public hearing before the City Council. The request must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 10 days after the Commission's hearing. All Commission recommendations on public hearing items move forward to a regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act on the recommendation of the Commission. They may concur with the decision, modify it, or overturn it. We welcome citizens' comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation. And I can speak for the rest of the council, the commission. We are thrilled to have so many people here tonight. So thank you for coming. We often sit in a room by ourselves. So this is great. So thank you. Okay. So if there's any final request forms, this is your final call. The next order of business is the consent agenda. And the consent agenda is for items that are routine in nature, and tonight they consist of two items. The first item is disposition of absences. Discussion and possible action to approve and excuse the absence of Vice Chair Lee Strickman and Commissioners Sean Hutchinson and Bill Lewis from the September 18th meeting of 2014 meeting. And 2C are the minutes, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on September 18th, 2014. Any discussion of these items? May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Could I have a second on that?
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Then I'm going to ask you to vote, and tonight, because we don't have a little voting machine, I'm simply going to go down the roll and ask you to say yay or nay. Strickman?
Yay.
Spranker?
Yay.
Loper?
Yes.
Hutchinson?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
And Golden, yes. The motion carries. Thank you. We now move on to the new business. The first item tonight for new business is 3R, public hearing, conditional use permit, private self-defense martial arts studio, CU 14-0006. A public hearing will be held to consider a request for a conditional use permit to allow a private self-defense martial art studio. Proposed hours of operation will be from 4:15 to 8 p.m. on Monday and Wednesday, and 5:30 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. The property is located at the northeast corner of 81st Avenue and Country Gables Drive. More specifically described as assessor parcel number 200-62-010C. Could I have the staff report, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. My name is Lori Deaver. I am a planner with the Peoria Planning Department. Tonight I'll be presenting the staff report for CU 14-0006. The applicant representing the Elliots will be Jeff Bliley, Buse-Gilbert. Property is located at the northeast corner of 81st Avenue and Country Gables Drive. Can everybody hear me okay? I do speak kind of quietly. Okay, thank you. The property is approximately 1 acre in size. Recently, the Planning Commission has seen this before. As you may recall, the Elliots were before you on another case. That was for Z14-0005. That was a request to rezone the property from General Agricultural District Ag to SR 43. That case was approved last month by City Council. Tonight's request in front of you, the property owners are seeking a CUP for a home occupation or home business. More specifically, the request is a conditional use permit to allow for a home occupation of a martial arts studio for private instruction as an accessory use to the single-family dwelling unit. This is an existing single-family residence, and as you see, there are 3 buildings existing on site, the main house and 2 accessory buildings. The Elliots desire to have the studio be located in the northeast corner of the property in the accessory building marked number 1. It would be separate from the main residence. To give you some context as to what the actual properties look like, there are photos in front of you. The top photo shows the main house from the intersection. The photo in the bottom left shows the main house from Country Gables. The photo on the bottom right is also from Country Gables, and that's looking towards the house and the accessory building. There is landscaping and gates along both sides of the street. If you were to walk into the property, this would show you context of what the accessory building looks like. The request for proposed hours of operation would be 4:15 to 8 p.m. on Monday and Wednesday, 5:30 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. There is a maximum of 6 students per class or session. There are no more than 15 students on Monday and Wednesday, and no more than 10 students on Tuesday and Thursday. The property owner is actually the master instructor for the academy, and his son resides at the property and would be the substitute instructor. Each class is approximately 45 minutes in duration, and the anticipated class schedule is shown in the table. They do have 2 kids sessions. That would be the Monday and Wednesday. Teen sessions would follow, and then adult sessions thereafter. Staff began our analysis of the proposal by determining if the use was consistent with the definition of a home occupation. The zoning ordinance defines a home occupation as an occupation carried out solely by the occupant of the residence that is subordinate or incidental to the primary function of the principal residence or dwelling unit. A home occupation is allowed in any residential district, including SR 43. If the home occupation does not meet all of the criteria listed within the zoning ordinance, it still may be allowed if a conditional use permit is obtained, which is why we are here this evening. In this proposal, the home occupation would have more than 1 visitor at any time or more than 2 visitors per hour. So a CUP is necessary to allow this business to occur at the residence. Consistency with a home occupation definition. Martial arts studios are typically a commercial business. They are located in a retail or employment center. In the applicant's narrative, the property owner noted that they are desiring to scale down from a commercial operation by limiting the number of classes and hours traditionally found within a typical martial arts studio. The business would be located in a private setting on his personal residence located in the accessory structure at the back of the property adjacent to a commercial stable. Employees would be limited to the owner and son. So in staff's judgment, based on these factors, it was determined that the proposed size and scale of the use would be consistent with a home occupation use. The studio would be considered atypical for an accessory use. However, there are uses also listed within the zoning ordinance that are allowed within any residential district with a conditional use permit. In particular, the code allows for a preschool or daycare within any residential district with a conditional use permit. This actually has many similar aspects and characteristics in common with the proposed martial arts studio, and so staff utilized the preschool daycare as a baseline for comparison in our analysis of the conditional use permit criteria. The zoning ordinance states a permitted conditional use, such as preschool or daycare, may be appropriate in specific locations in certain zoning districts when they are designed, developed, and operated in a manner that ensures compatibility with adjoining uses. The code also establishes criteria in evaluating those conditional uses, which include but are not limited to noise, dust, vibration, illumination, impact on the surrounding areas, including unusual volume or character of traffic, also impact on public services, ingress, egress of the property, and parking. For my next couple of slides, what I'm going to do is go over the results of how the martial arts studio compared with the preschool and daycare in these aspects. Number of students. Preschool daycares would allow up to 10 students per day, 5 days per week, resulting in a total of 50 students. The proposed martial arts studio similarly allows the 50 students within a condensed 4-day schedule. From a drop-off and pickup standpoint, preschool centers typically have 2 distinct drop-off times and 3 staggered pickup times, either before school, the regular class, after school sessions. The martial arts studio would have 3 drop-off and pickup times on Monday and Wednesday and 2 drop-off pickup times on Tuesday and Thursday. Because they are going to a 4-day condensed schedule, this contributes to a number of additional events on those 2 days. However, when you look at the trips in totality, they are essentially less than what a preschool daycare would be. From an operations standpoint, preschools will traditionally have both indoor and outdoor activities, while classes at the martial arts studios will be limited to indoors only. The vehicular trips. Based on past enrollment coming from a commercial establishment, they have found that the majority of their members and students are actually family members. So this trend is expected to continue. This would result in an anticipated reasonable number of people carpooling. From a preschool standpoint, while you may have some siblings, you would typically attribute 1 vehicle per student. The surrounding area is comprised of large residences. Also within the general area, you have several schools, churches, and commercial businesses within the immediate area. They have events regularly occurring outside of normal business hours as well as on the weekends. In staff's judgment, the resulting traffic from the studio during the peak periods during drop-off and pickup times would not create an unusual volume of traffic in comparison to what's actually existing. Parents staying on the property during the kids' sessions will be directed to wait inside the residence. Parking would be contained within the property. The parking lot is actually along the west side next to the religious facility, so it would be away from the adjoining residences to the south. The commercial stable flanks both the north and the east side. Visibility from the structure, as I showed in the pictures, is minimized due to the wall and landscaping, and no signage or commercial advertising would be allowed on site. The city sent out a notice of application and a notice of hearing postcard to property owners within a 600-foot radius and HOAs within 1 mile. The neighborhood meeting was held by the applicant on June 2nd. 5 county property owners attended that meeting. After the meeting, the applicant submitted their citizen participation report. They did note the concerns of the neighbors were associated with the business in the neighborhood, traffic, parking, and noise. Since that meeting, the applicant revised their proposal to the reduced number of days, the 4-day schedule that you have within your packet this evening. Staff has received 25 letters of support from adjacent residents, 7 letters from past and present students. We have also received 3 phone calls and 1 letter from adjacent residents in opposition. Ooh, we lost mouse. Based on our analysis, staff finds the request is consistent with the definition of home occupation. The proposed use is similar to, and in some instances less intense than, the preschool or daycare center, which is also allowed as a conditional use permit within a residential district. The request is compatible and consistent with the surrounding context and uses in the vicinity of the project, and the home occupation will operate in a manner that will minimize or mitigate any impacts on the surrounding properties. With that, staff is recommending approval of conditional use permit CU 14-0006, subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report. With that, that concludes my presentation. The applicant is also here to speak to any questions regarding the business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions for the staff from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Loper?
Two questions. The first one, explain to me the conditional use permit process. Once issued, how is it reviewed? Is it a proactive review, or is it in response to complaints based on what the stipulations of approval are? And then I have a follow-up question.
Okay, would you like to take that first?
Like each conditional use permit, staff does have continuing jurisdiction on the use permit. And what that means is that the conditions that are attached to the permit apply in perpetuity until the business is changed. So what that means is, if there happens to be complaints, staff would investigate those complaints. If the complaint is valid, we might seek some cure to that. If there could not be, if there is not a cure sought for that, or it's not completed for that, staff does have the ability to bring the use permit back to the commission for consideration or revocation of that.
Thank you. And then my follow-up, due to the large amount of public, would it be possible to summarize the stipulations of approval?
Yes,
Don't
Commissioner.
go through them verbatim, just kind of the key ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, Commissioners, in summarizing the stipulations or the conditions of approval, use needs to be conformed to the site plan that was submitted to the with the part of the application. Second one would be that the building permit would need to be issued for the accessory structure before the use can begin. All activities would need to be enclosed within the building, no activities outside. The hours of operation that we've talked about tonight would be adhered to, the time limit and both the days. There's a maximum of 3 classes. Those are stipulated on Monday and Wednesday, 2 classes Tuesday and Thursday. The maximum number of students per class and per day is also stipulated. No commercial advertising or signage allowed on site is also a stipulation. I believe that goes over that. Is there anything in particular?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the commissioners?
I have a question.
Yes,
Thank
Commissioner Strickland?
In the information that I read, it talked about Proposition 207. And within that proposition, it talked about the applicant has furnished a signed notarized waiver. But my question is, if some of the neighbors are not happy with it, do they have a case against the city to come and say you shouldn't have allowed this?
Madam Chairwoman, Commissioner Strickman, in general, the purpose of the waiver is to isolate or insulate the city from those sorts of lawsuits. So the residents would have a right of action against the property owner, but not against the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioners, before I go any further, I just want to pass out to you, I just have 4 copies of this. They were submitted by someone who'll be testifying tonight. And since I only have 4 copies, I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to look at them before the testimony. Okay? So thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. And would the applicant like to speak? And could you please state your name and your address?
Certainly. Am I on? Is this on? Okay.
Yes.
Jeff Bliley, 701 North 44th Street, here on behalf of the Elliots. We're here tonight asking for this CUP to be approved. The Elliots have purchased this piece of property in the city of Peoria with the sole intent of residing there as their primary residence with their son, and then as well as trying to conduct some private martial arts training in an accessory structure. Tim's been teaching martial arts for about 30 years. This is a Korean self-defense type of martial arts, not MMA or any type of aggressive fighting type of martial arts. It's a self-defense, a very low-key martial arts. And the whole intent was to kind of downsize the operation that they'd been doing for the past 30 years and try to do it in a more residential setting on a more private basis, and so he could still maintain what he's been doing all of his life and in a more residential setting. But under no circumstance is they're trying to turn this into a commercial operation on a residential. This is going to be their primary residence, and that's going to be first and foremost for the property. The home they purchased was previously in foreclosure. I don't know if anybody had a chance to see it before. The Elliots spent over $100,000 fixing it up, but it was a pretty dilapidated piece of property. I think all the vegetation had died, trees had died. They've gone in and cleaned it up real nice. Everything's all replanted grass, new trees, put up fences. It's a really nice piece of property. It's well screened. The accessory structure is in the far back corner of the property where the training will be occurring, all indoors, as Lori mentioned. It's fully screened from the street. There'll be no noise. The structure is made out of slump block or block. It's very, very good structure. We've got some issues, as Lori mentioned. One of the stipulations is we can't start until we get a building permit on the structure, so we'll be going through that process to get that done as well. We're here tonight just trying to get the conditional use permit for the use. As Lori mentioned, I think the staff did a nice job of comparing the use to the daycare use. I think there are a lot of similarities. Frankly, I believe this is probably a little less intense use than a daycare because of all the operations are inside. It's more training. You don't have the outside activities that you would have with the daycare center and children. I believe the trip count that you're going to see is going to be far less than you would see with a daycare because of the carpooling efforts. And a lot of family members that get training together. So I don't think you're going to see any the nominal increase in traffic that this is going to be negligible to unmeasurable. My understanding, it's a pretty busy intersection now with cut-through traffic as it is, as well as there's a church directly across the street that produces quite a bit of traffic. When we made the initial submittal, the plan was to have classes Monday through Saturday. 3 classes, I believe, a day on Monday through Friday and 1 or 2 on Saturday, in an effort to work with staff and try to reduce the intensity of this use, as well as try to work with some of the neighbors after we heard some of the issues at the neighborhood meeting. We've reduced the number of classes, just 3 on the Mondays and Wednesdays, 2 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, none on Friday, none on Saturday. So we've really tried to reduce that. We've reduced the class sizes. We've done everything we can, I think, to really minimize the impact that anybody could see having on the neighborhood. I just point out some of the other uses that would be permitted on the property. As of course, the church across the street would be a permitted use on this property. Any kind of private school, charter school, any kind of school would be permitted in this zoning district. A group home would be a permitted use in this zoning district. Wouldn't even need a conditional use permit. So I think the type of use we're proposing is much less intense than a lot of things that could happen on the property. We did the neighborhood outreach. We had that neighborhood meeting. Susan has been out canvassing the neighborhood, talking with all the neighbors. I think it was in your packet. I didn't see the map up on the screen, but she's been very diligent to going out and letting everybody know what's going to, what they're proposing for the property. And I think you've seen the efforts of that with the 25 letters of support. Basically, almost every property owner that envelops the property has signed off on support, except for a couple across the street in the county island. So I think you're seeing an overwhelming amount of support for this use, and success on the efforts that they've done with regard to trying to get the word out and trying to see what they can get the support from the neighbors. I know there may be some issues with some of the neighbors. I've heard a few things. One of the things with regard to the rezone of the property, as you're well aware, we rezoned the property to SR 43 that was really at the request of the city. That wasn't something we were initiating. We were fine with the ag zoning. The use that we're proposing, the martial arts studio, was a conditionally permitted use as well. The rezoning had nothing to do with that. It was mainly to clean up a non-conforming lot in the city of Peoria. That went through. We did it. We were fine with that. But the SR 43 is not a commercial zoning district. You couldn't put any kind of commercial uses on there because it's SR 43. It has very similar restrictions as the ag zoning on it that it currently has. The conditional use permit that we're asking for tonight, of course, runs with, I don't believe it runs with the land. I believe it runs with the property owner. So, this isn't a matter of the Elliots coming in here trying to get some entitlements on the property and then marketing it and selling it to somebody else. If they were to sell the property, the conditional use permit would go away. It only runs with the Elliots. So as long as they're on the property and conducting the business in accordance with the use permit, it'll remain in effect. But if they were to sell, the use permit goes away, and whoever buys the property, whatever they'd want to do with it, would have to come back to you if they were going to do something other than a single-family residence. So anyway, we're here tonight asking for your support on this matter. I know there's a number of people that would like to speak in support of the Elliots, and there may be a few here opposed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have now or even after you hear from the remaining residents. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Just one moment, and let me just see if the commissioners have any questions. Any questions? Oh, yes, Commissioner Spanker?
On the presentation that staff made, it talked about, and in the documents, it talks about that the majority of students are family. I'm just curious, of the, I don't know what it is here, 30 or 60 individuals across of the 4 days, are those all family? That's one huge family.
No, I don't. I think what they're trying to say is you have a lot of family members, so you may have 2 or 3 members of the family are attending. It's not all related, but what you're not seeing is, I think we're allowed up to 50 students a week. You're not seeing 50 unrelated individuals. That may represent 10 or 15 families with 3 or 4 family members each, or 2 to 3 family members each attending.
Thank you, I understand.
Could you answer just 2 questions for me? One is about parking. Where on the lot do you anticipate the parking to take place?
The lot actually is very accommodating. If you've been out there, I invite any member of the commission to go out. It's a very nice piece of property, but there's parking both along the western side and the northern side of the property. I think they did a number of improvements out there to make it, to facilitate that. In fact, there's probably more than enough parking because of the number of cars we anticipate, but it'll be fully screened. They've put in, they've added to the fencing that's on the westbound to put in slats to screen that as well. They've put a block wall along the north wall, so that's totally screened. They could get 9, 10 cars back there, I'm sure, without a problem. So there's plenty of parking. There'll be no on-street parking at all needed for this use.
And will there be any signage?
No signage at all.
No signage. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'd like to open it up for public comment, and I'd just like to remind you as you come up to please state your name and your address, and also to keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Lewis if he would please keep time for me. Okay, thank you. And I'm just calling these in the order they were given to me, so there's nothing special about it. The first person to speak will be William Floor. Thank you. And the next person is going to be Steve Hash. Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous, public speaking.
Could you pull that mic just a little closer to you? Thank you.
How's that?
Oh, much better, thank you.
My name is William Floor, 15994 West Morning Glory Street. I guess I'm 32 years old, and I've known Master Elliott since I was 9 years old. I'm going to try to wing it off my paperwork here. The art of Hwarangdo has been a part of my life at a very young age. It inspired me to go to great lengths to achieve what I want to do. Growing up, that was something he instilled in me. The art instilled in me was about being able to never give up and go forward and keep pushing. Even when times were down, you never gave up. This growing up really helped me because I had family members that told me, you can't do this, you can't do that. And as of today, I've been able to achieve a lot of my dreams and goals I've had as growing up and becoming an adult. I mean, I was able to win national tournaments. I've graduated college 3 times. I've became a paramedic firefighter for the city of El Mirage. That has pushed me. This art has pushed me, and it's been a positive influence in my life. This school being there, I think, would be a positive influence for that neighborhood. I mean, as they've already stated before, we've taken pride into what we have, and we've tried to make it better. Just like people expect me at the fire department to take care of my equipment, and and because they've given it to me through the taxpayers' money, and they expect me to take care of it. We want to show we are a positive school. We are there to help people and inspire people to reach great lengths that they want to. So we would take pride in our school. Everybody knows, your first 15 seconds appearance means everything. Everybody can write you out right there. And that's what we've tried to show through this, and as what you've seen in the pictures. Master Elliott personally has been like a second father to me. He's pushed me to go to great lengths. He is the type of man that I want to bring my kids to one day when I have them and let them learn from him. Also, this art has taught me about physical ability, how my body works and stuff, and it actually helped me make it through a fire academy. And this, I think, is a big aspect of what life is, because we all know that there is a big statistical problem with obesity in kids and adults. I mean, it's the Xbox age. All the kids want to sit home and play video games. And this kept me active. This helped me so that when I went into the fire academy, I knew how my body worked, what I needed to do to improve myself so I could be a better firefighter. And in essence, this art has helped me do a better job so that I could go out to the public and do what I needed to do. We also, kids don't have the luxury of having people that can back them up and help them through their rough times in life. And he's always been there for me. And I know with this school being there, he can do the same thing for them.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Steve Hash.
Hello, my name's Steve Hash. 43618 West Oster in Maricopa is where I live. Thank you to the commission for giving me a few minutes to say what I want to say. I'm a police officer and have been for 15 years. I'm 44 years old and been off and on in the martial arts for about 22 years, since I was 22. I moved to Arizona in '98, and I found this school. It is an hour away from my house, but I commit to an hour drive each way to go to this school. What's different about Master Elliott's Academy from other schools, besides the level of knowledge and versatility of the art, is that it attracts students who have come from other martial arts and want to improve their technique after they've outgrown that martial art that they first learned in. Most of Master Elliott's students are adults. They're in their 40s or 50s. And this is not a fight club. The students are not there to fight, but we're all there to grow as martial artists and as human beings. There are students that are children, and the children benefit from the exercise, and they're taught discipline and respect. They begin in class by reciting rules, to live by, such as loyalty to one's country, loyalty to one's parents and teachers, trust and brotherhood among friends. I've only been a student for about 2 years, and in that time, I used the techniques Master Elliott has taught me in my job as a police officer, and I've been able to control and arrest violent subjects and in a way that keeps them and me safe. The adult students of Master Elliott's Academy are professional people and valued members of society. As a police officer, I usually don't tell strangers what I do for a living. Any police officer will tell you there's just a certain amount of the population that just don't like us, so we keep it quiet. After being a student for a short time and meeting the other students, I felt no hesitation in revealing that I was a police officer to the body of students. Master Elliott's school is the only school I've attended since I've been in Arizona that I felt comfortable revealing I was a police officer. And I think this is due to the level of honor and integrity of the students of the academy. Speaking personally, the level of training I've received from Master Elliott's Academy has made me more confident at work, made me a better police officer, a more knowledgeable police officer. And I feel I can handle any situation I'm responding to as a first responder. And I've received good training from the police department, but Master Elliott's training supplements that and gives me more confidence. And other members of my squad and the people I work with look to me in a lot of these situations to deal with them.
Thank you, Mr. Hash.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you. The next speaker applicant is for Brian and Peter Reed. Will you both be speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Peter has just a short statement to read.
Okay.
Want to get that ready? Hello, my name is Brian Reed. And this is my son Peter. We dwell at 21954 North 68th Avenue in Glendale, Arizona. Peter's going to go first because he's a little nervous about speaking in public, but he's got something that he wants to read about his experience here in the studio.
My name is Peter Reed. I am 8 years old, and I am in 3rd grade at Pinnacle Point Academy. I am a purple belt in Huadingdo. I like going to Huadingdo because Kilsnum and Quantanim encourage me and help me learn a lot. I like learning how to defend myself in case of somebody tries to hurt me. I have made a lot of new friends, and I have more courage and get stronger with every belt I earn.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, I speak for the whole council, is I'm thrilled that you came to talk with us tonight, and I hope you stay active in civic affairs the rest of your life. Okay, you're great. Okay?
Thank you. Yes, that means a lot to him. I helped him, put that together, but those are his words. My name is Brian Reed. I'm the senior pastor of Glendale Christian Church here in Glendale. I'm also an adjunct professor at Arizona Christian University. But this is the first time I've ever spoken in a city, public meeting and environment. So thank you for the honor of being able to come and share just my experience with the Elliots. I actually started martial arts with Master Elliott almost 30 years ago when I was Pete's age. I started for a little bit and got through 1 or 2 belts, and my parents got divorced in that time, and I wasn't able to continue. And coming back now, it's a period of time where my wife and I are able to come back to martial arts and involve my son and do this with him. We're one of the people that carpool together to come to class. I'm a purple belt, he's a purple belt, I think sometimes he might even be able to beat me when it comes to sparring. It's been a wonderful opportunity for me to watch the impact that Master Elliott and his son have had in my son's life, and watching how, in particular, Jonathan Elliott, Master Elliott's son, usually teaches the kids' classes, has just been a wonderful experience. My son loves coming, has just an amazing time, has made a lot of very good friends. And that sort of experience just delights me as a father, to see him see other role models and learn from them. To watch, somebody that is perfectly competent in their ability to use martial arts, but has a sense of humility that balances that, and a sense of fun that really keeps it a lighthearted and enjoyable environment. In my experience, our church right now is the one that's hosting the classes. We have a gym, and most of the classes are being held, all the classes are being held there right now on Monday and Wednesday nights. Because my church is the place that's hosting that, I get a chance to see exactly how many people are coming. It's a very small studio, and that's one of the things that attracted me to study with Master Elliott. Not only is there quality instruction, but he doesn't want to make a, Mick martial arts, kind of setup with, and grow. He's at the point in his life where, he's expressed repeatedly and demonstrated by the number of students that he wants to keep it small to be able to continue to provide the quality of instruction that this art demands. 10 people in a class is too much. Nobody has a chance to learn anything, and so our class sizes, I'm usually partnering up, and there's 5 or 6 of us that are getting together, and that's just about as many as can be handled. And that means that I have the experience as a practitioner to have one-on-one attention of a black sash instructor, even while I'm in the belt program, and need to then get a black belt to graduate into the sash program. I appreciate that tremendously, and I've learned a lot from them. It's been an incredibly encouraging environment. And so, having seen both of those sides, I really hope that you'll consider granting this conditional use permit. I understand that if you have the idea in your head that it's a massive martial arts school, and we're going to have the Cobra Kai from Karate Kid, they're out on the lawn, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. That's an entirely different kind of mindset than what we have, with a small, family-based organization.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
You're
And
welcome.
Peter, again, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. The next speaker are the Grahams, Tina, Jiminy, and Rhett. And all 3 of you be speaking?
I think just 2 of us. Rhett's a bit shy, so
Okay, that's fine.
coming for moral support.
Right, come on up. You might change your mind. You never know. Okay? Please state your name for the record and your address.
Okay, Jimmy Graham, 37415 North 237th Avenue, out in Morristown. Thanks again for letting us speak. I appreciate that. My family and I have been involved with Master Elliott and the Huarongdo Phoenix Academy now for about 4 years. I first got involved, I wanted to get my youngest son, Red, involved in some physical activity and, learn some self-defense. And after going to several other martial arts schools, I quickly learned when I went into Master Elliott's school that he is the most professional person I've ever met with any kind of sporting activity, and I've done a lot. But it's really not even a sport. It's kind of a way of life, and you learn that quickly when you go in there. Character development, I think, is his number one goal. And he's wonderful with kids. And my kids, I have an older son right now. He's down at the University of Arizona, and he's almost to black belt level. He still comes back in between his college classes when he can, and continues with Master Elliott. And he's learned a lot, as has my son Rhett. My wife and I and my whole family have spent tons of time together with this. We talk about it all the time, and we made a lot of great friends. But I think overall, from a community standpoint, you just can't get any better than the Elliots. They're wonderful people, and the art itself is a great way to learn things. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
What impressed me when we went to the school for the first time.
I'm sorry, could you just state your name?
Oh, sure. Oh, Tina Graham, same address as Jimmy.
Thank you.
Is how encouraging and motivational Master Elliott and his son Jonathan are. Very kind-hearted, very humble. The environment there is very motivational, and it's really good for learning. And as you can notice, a lot of the students here are, 40 plus. It's kind of intimidating to start a martial art when you're at this age. And, that goes away very quickly because of how positive the environment is. We've also been able to connect with our teenagers. We are able to do this with them. Anybody who's raised teenagers knows how difficult that can be to connect with them. And the Elliots provide a very positive role model, positive influence, sense of discipline and respect for authority. Just that kind of thing that a teenage boy really can grab onto and benefit from. So for the Grahams here, we sure hope that you approve this permit. We would like to continue to study with Master Elliott. We're going to keep doing it as long as we possibly can, and we do think it would be a great benefit for the city. If you're going to be helping people improve themselves, helping kids become mature, responsible adults, how can you get better than that?
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Max Enterline.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners with the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm Max Enterline. I'm a planner with the City of Phoenix. I'm a researcher. I am in the background. I do census demographics.
And could you state your address?
My address is 9311 North 3rd Drive,
Thank you.
Phoenix. I've been training in various martial arts for 35 years. I started in Cleveland. I got my black belt in Taekwondo. I thought it was the best thing ever. And then I moved out to Arizona, tried to find another studio like the one I was at, and I couldn't find one. And I realized in a tournament, I watched these kids and a master out on the floor do forms. And I said, what was that style? It was the most beautiful martial art I've ever seen. And it was Hwarang Do. And it happened to be a Korean style, just like Taekwondo. So my main points are a couple of things. We've heard it before, and I am repeating, but it is not a fight club. It is not what you see on TV. It's not in the movies. It's not Bruce Lee. It's a very traditional art that came from 540 AD, and the lineage, the chain, has been unbroken for all these centuries, okay? And he is a student of the Grand Master, who came from North Korea, fled with a monk to South Korea, and then they came to LA and Phoenix. This is some of the first two areas where they came to settle and teach the martial art of Hwarang Do in America. So there's a lot of history here behind it, and when you go to one of his classes, you learn about martial art history. He's like an encyclopedia when you listen to him. So it is much more than punching and kicking and fighting. It's an extremely difficult curricula to learn. And as a former black belt, when I show up to the school, this man will not let you wear a black belt. You are a no belt. You start over. You try a new flavor of tea. And that is the special thing about Hwarang Do and all the masters. There's very few masters like him in this country, and we're blessed to have him here. The other point I'd like to make is he blends the values of Christianity with martial arts. So as far as the character in the neighborhood, you have a Christian church right across the street. You have diverse students from every walk of life, from India, from, let me see, I could look around, and they're from all over. We have a guy from the Philippines. He's here somewhere. He's hiding. There he is. Raise your hand. Mm-hmm. And so, the thing I just want you to realize is it's a special school. They'll be really good for this neighborhood. They won't harm it. In fact, the people that are opposed will be very surprised if you do pass this CUP at how quiet it's going to be. It's not going to be what they fear. And that's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. The next speaker is Shelton and Frank Lawrence.
Yes, thank you. My name is Frank Lawrence, and this is Shelton Lawrence. We live at 14922 North 48th Avenue, North 76th Avenue in Peoria, Arizona. I'm going to speak real quick first because he's a really hard act to follow.
It's the bow tie.
So, about 25 years ago, I trained with Master Elliott, and what I got out of it was respect, discipline, and confidence. Also, knowing that through hard work, I can persevere. Those qualities I wanted to instill in my son, so I felt it would be a great time at 8 years old to start him in the same art form. And I'm going to turn the mic over to him for the remainder of the time.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi, my name is Shelton. I am 12 years old, and I am in the 6th grade. I have been with Hwarang Do for 4 years now, and those 4 years, the Elliots have become my family. They attend dinners at our home and even came to my birthday party. They are the kindest people I know. The Elliott home studio is part of the community where I live. It is extremely close to my house, so close I can ride my bike there. Being a part of Hollingdale isn't just being part of a family or a community or about learning martial arts. It's about how to be respectful, how to be loyal, and how to honor parents and teachers, how to persevere, and how to be so dedicated to something even when you wanted to give up. I have earned my black belt, but more so, I have earned a family. Thank you for your time.
Well, Frank, thank you for coming up and talking with us today. Thank you. Melissa and Michael, you're going to have to help me with the last name. Hi, could you state your name and your address for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Michael Kokenauer, 25410 North 42nd Drive. I'm here this evening with my wife, Melissa. And for the record, we carpooled, just like we carpooled a martial arts class. I just wanted to take a minute and share with you why we decided to get involved together with martial arts to begin with. We've been training with the Elliots for a little over 6 years. And what happened is about 6 years ago, we're both very busy professionals. I'm an entrepreneur. I run a company named IT Synergy. And my wife, Melissa, is a vice president with Chicago Title. And so time is something, especially time together, that's really at a premium for us. And so a number of years ago, I sat down and tried to think of ways that two busy professionals could find more quality time to spend together. And we looked at a number of different things, and ultimately I decided that martial arts might be a good way to do that. And in hindsight, what that's accomplished for us is over the past 6 years, we first of all get quite a good amount of time in the car together, driving to and from the Martial Arts Academy. So that's probably an extra hour a day that we spend. More importantly, though, this is now an art that we share, the two of us together. And so it's really been a great bonding experience for us, being able to share this experience. And the one result that's come out of it that I didn't anticipate is my wife has actually ended up being a far better martial artist than I will ever be. And believe it or not, she outranks me in the art. And so, you know, as other people have said, this is not just a fight club. This is really a learning experience. And I'll turn it over to Melissa for her comments.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to speak about our school and about the Elliots. It's hard to go last because all the good stuff's been taken already, but you know, the family community that we have at our school. Mike and I tried about a half dozen schools before we came and found the Elliots, and it was all about the fighting. And when we came to the Elliott School, it was such a different atmosphere right away. I mean, right away we knew we had found home. These people, we care about each other. There's not anything that we wouldn't do for one another. They teach such a traditional martial arts and just good virtues like loyalty, courage, trust, goodness, all things that would bode well for the city of Peoria. And thank you for, you know, entertaining the CPU or CUP for us. We would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie Wood.
Good evening. My name is Eddie Woods. My address is 6227 West Mescal, Glendale, Arizona. My name is Eddie Woods, and I'm a teacher at Peoria High School. I've been a teacher at Peoria High School for the past 14 years, and during that time, I've taught over 3,000 students, and many of those have become active members in the community of Peoria. As a teacher and a coach, I've strived to instill characteristics as leadership, responsibility, hard work, commitment, respect, and citizenship to all my students. These same characteristics and qualities I try to develop in my students are the same kind of characteristics I've discovered in my training under Master Elliott. For the last 2 years, my son and I, who's not able to be here, have been training under Master Elliott. When we first started, my son was in 7th grade, and like many teenagers, his highest ambition in life was to play video games at home. So as a parent, I wanted to try to find something for him to do, to be active, be part of his life, and be more physically active. Now, my son, Ahi, he's 6'3.5", and one would expect that he would be a good basketball player. However, he has no interest in playing basketball. One of the reasons was he just lacked the coordination. Can you imagine being 7th grade and being 6 foot tall? So with that, I looked for something that we can do, and we came to Wadandoe under Master Elliott. During that time, in Wadandoe, Wadandoe has helped my son and myself be physically active, helped him with his coordination. More importantly, it's helped instill these same kind of leadership qualities of leadership, hard work, commitment, and respect. Watching my son help younger students with their techniques and their forms, showing respect to elder students and adults, putting away equipment and mats, spending hours on hours training and practicing his own techniques, have helped develop these characteristic traits. Seeing how much my son has grown over the 2 years, I can confidently say that Wadandoe has helped him and has a positive influence on his life. Master Elliott and his family and all the students of the Wadandoe Academy are like a second family. They genuinely care about other people. Like myself, Master Elliott strives to bring the best out of each person, not only in martial arts, but as a person themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. And the next person, I'm sorry, I can't read your writing. Otto? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners, City Council. My name is Ada Ulrich, and I live on 7941 West Country Gables Drive. The reason why we're here today is because when Mr. Elliott bought the property, we presumed that he would have his residency there. And when we found out that he is going to build a martial arts studio, the neighbors, they felt deceived. They felt that he bought something that he didn't present to them, and they were scared. And I think they're still concerned about that. On the other side, I think Mr. Elliott and his wife, they put a remarkable amount of effort and money into that property, which, by the way, raised the value of our property, the property of the adjacent neighbors as well, which deserves a certain respect, I believe. We, the neighbors, had concerns about the traffic. We had concerns about what kind of people would come to his martial arts studio. We were concerned that as a commercial business, it will grow and will change the character of the neighborhood. And that's why a lot of the opposition arose. The staff showed us that a lot of these concerns are not substantiated. With the restriction that you outlined, the character of the neighborhood is not going to change. So, ultimately the question is, what is it in for me to allow Mr. Elliott and his wife to have a semi-professional martial arts studio in his residency? Well, the answer is it's going to add some variety that I think is going to have a positive impact on the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. William Zababa?
Hi, I'm William Zabava. I live at 14802 North 80th Lane. I would just like to say I'm not a lawyer, nor did I stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so if I seem a little nervous, just a resident in the neighborhood. I would also say I live in the county island, so you know, I don't participate in Peoria, and that's my choice by living in the county island. So I'd say my hope is that what it is happens from this meeting will be fair. I'd like to look at some of the facts, and I think some of them, there's without, I cannot dispute them. The Elliots have done a great job with the house. It's beautiful. They've sunk a lot of money into it, and sure, that certainly does benefit me in that the neighborhood looks nice. He's obviously had a great impact with his school and the students that he's trained. I don't think we can dispute that either. But, here again, how I feel and how my family feels, I'm only going to speak for my family too. I'm not going to speak for the other neighbors as well, although I think some of us do share a common sentiment. So I think the question to be asked here is, do the Elliots, their business, the students that they serve, none of which live in our, they don't live in my neighborhood. They haven't bought a house. They don't pay, the mortgage on that house to live in that neighborhood. Do their rights, do their needs, do their wants, do they trump all of the neighbors that just want to have a peaceful, existence within that neighborhood? We love the rural setting. There's already enough going on. There's 2 churches, and when we start setting precedents for adding businesses, where does it begin and end? And my final comment would be as well, so for all the people that are, for the business, are they going to have the same opinion when this happens to them in their neighborhood where businesses come in, and when they don't serve their interests, I'd say be careful what you ask for. You may not like what you get. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Christina Yoder?
Hi, my name is Christina Yoder, and I live at 7970 West Country Gables Drive on the city side of Country Gables. So I'm here to voice my support. I've lived in my house for 20 years. I've seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood, and they weren't all welcome. A lot of changes brought more traffic to our neighborhood. What I've noticed about the Elliots setup is that it minimizes the amount of traffic through the neighborhood. People could come in on Country Gables and pull right into the parking. They've done a lot to fix up the house. It looks nice. They are lovely people and have done a really good job of keeping us informed and appraised of what's going on. I think change in a neighborhood like ours is inevitable. I think that we can be involved in what happens and support the kinds of positive things like what his studio would bring. So I'm in support.
Fine, thank you. I appreciate it. The next speaker is Darlene Treboff.
Did a good job.
I did? That's great.
My name is Darlene Treboff. I live at 14802 North 81st Avenue, about 3 houses down from Mr. Elliott. I oppose it. We live in a residential area. We would love to keep it residential. We feel like once one business comes in, that opens it up for more and more businesses. I don't care how, 99% of these people do not live in our area. So that's one of the reasons that we oppose them, because of what they're doing. They're saying it's great, it's wonderful, we love Mr. Elliott. That's all great. They don't live in our neighborhood. We live in our neighborhood. And how would any one of you like to have a martial art business living next to you or across the street from you? It brings in more people, but it also brings in that opening up for another business to become, they'll say, okay, that one went into business down there, why can't we? And it opens it up for everybody else to have a business. Mr. Elliott also started his business without getting a permit. And once they found out that he had a permit, he got shut down. So that Mr. Elliott is a fine person, but when he came into the neighborhood and he started his business without having a permit, I have a problem with that. And he should have done it the right way, and he says, well, he didn't know. He had a business for years. Any business you have, you're going to have a permit for it. So I feel that he did know. I think they thought, okay, we can buy this home, we can put in our business, nobody's going to care, this is all rural, this is acreage lots, nobody's going to care. But we do care. I've lived there for 42 years, and I do care. And I want to keep it residential as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Strickland?
Oops, excuse me. My name's Pat Strickland. I live at 14802 North 79th Lane. My husband and I have owned the property for over 43 years. And to be very honest with you, after we bought our lot, they shouldn't have sold any more, and there would still be cotton fields. The Elliots, there were a lot of character witnesses, which I appreciate, but to be very honest with you, I think that missed the mark. And to me, the issue is whether or not there is a business or they're allowed to conduct their school. I have no problem with that. They have done a phenomenal job with property that was owned for, I think, at least 20 years by the previous owner, and they did very little with that property. The property is lovely. The idea about traffic, I think, is sort of comical. There is a commercial stable to the north and east of the Elliott's property. There is a large church across 81st Avenue. There is another church 2 or 3 lots in off of 83rd Avenue that sometimes they have overflow parking on the street. I didn't like it when other people built there. I didn't like it when the cotton fields left, but you know, that's life and all. I have no problem with the Elliott's idea of the school, the restrictions that are on it. I don't see how they could be locked down any tighter. You're going to yank the CUP if they break any of those restrictions, so it's not in their benefit to do that. I think the neighborhood is as protected as it possibly can be, and as I said, nobody should have bought after I did, but that's not the way life goes. Thank you.
Fine, thank you, I appreciate it. Melinda Strom? And Ms. Strom, we did pass out your
thank you.
attachment.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Melinda Strom. I live at 8031 West Country Gables, immediately across the street from the resident in question. In regards to the request for the conditional use permit, as a homeowner in the immediate area, within 600 feet of the actual home, the martial arts building, I don't oppose the Elliots, don't get me wrong, they're great people. They have built up the property immensely. But I oppose just bringing in business into our area. I will say that I don't diminish the fact that martial arts to some people or to a lot of people is important, but it's a personal choice. And with that, I would also say that should the city allow the spot zoning, it would be a travesty to all of the city codes and laws that support and define residential areas. The reasons that I specifically oppose it would be crime. And I'm not saying that martial arts students are criminals. In fact, maybe they're not. But you have a picture in front of you that shows that there was graffiti on their sign out in front of their house announcing this. And the other thing is noise. I'm going to tell you for a straight up fact. I was in my house. They were in their studio with their students. I came out of my house to see what the noise was from the screaming and the hollering and from inside of that studio. There was a time when they did go outside But I thought there was a fight outside, but it was not. It was a bunch of students, and so I just went back in the house. The noise, for me, being across the street, is absolutely a concern. Other nuisances that could possibly follow with having a personal business that caters to the public. I'm not saying the public is bad, but I'm just saying that it brings an element of other nuisances to the area. And it does, without a doubt, diminish my home value when there is a personal business or a private business across the street from me. For those reasons, I oppose the request for the conditional permit use. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Strom?
Hi, my name's Robert Strum, and I'd like to thank the board and the city for letting me speak here tonight. Boy, I'm shocked what the city had to say here tonight. They were so one-sided instead of down the middle of the road. And then you asked them if they would have any culpability, and they said they wouldn't have any culpability, but before you've already approved it, they're giving their high, yeah, let's do this. I looked up commercial in the dictionary, and it said, concerned with earning money. That's what this is about. It's not about families living in a residential area. It's about concerns about earning money. And I looked up the city codes and the laws. It talked about spot zoning, which is one owner amongst many houses wanting to run a business to make money. We had all these great people, and I know the Elliots. I borrowed him my pickup truck. I cut his grass for him. They are nice people. But that has nothing to do with trying to put a business. And as my wife said, these are just within 2 weeks of those pictures that we've supported with you that happened in 2 weeks. I don't know if you can recognize that graffiti on there, but along the one side, it's an upside-down 666. In the center, it's an upside-down cross. Do we want more of that to come into our city? I don't. Not only that is, within less than a mile, there's commercial property all over the city of Peoria. 1 mile. They can't travel 1 mile and rent or buy a commercial piece of property. They got to put it in my backyard? I want to thank you all for listening.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. The speaker is John Lazirata. Oh, well, let me spell it in case I'm saying it so poorly. Lanzerota. I take it he's left? Okay, thank you. And the last name, the last speaker is Westerfield? What, Dennis, you think?
Dudley?
Dudley?
It's not common, Dudley.
Oh, Dudley. Thank you.
Dudley Westerfield, and I live at 14802 North 80th Lane, just a couple of houses from the Elliots. I didn't realize, because I never met the Elliots, how important they are and how good of instructor you are. So what I have to say has nothing to do with your character or anything of your business, other than we've lived in this area for over 40 years and have seen other businesses come in, and we've tried to, stop them as well. We have churches in the area. We have, down on 83rd Avenue, we have a school. What am I saying, Montessori school? Anyway, that was one that we tried to oppose as well. Because of the different businesses or the schools or the churches coming into the area, we have seen kind of businesses try to move in. We try to keep them from moving in because we want to stay residential. And in being there for so many years, we've seen this happen over and over. And every time one comes in, we just say, well, here's another one coming in. What's the next one going to be? Are we going to have more come in? And it just kind of has a negative influence on our life. So I would appreciate, that they have passed all the ordinances and stuff like that. But I don't think it's a good place for a business to be in our neighborhood. And I'm sure, like they said before, the people here who have praised him don't live in our neighborhood. And so they're not affected by the business that are in our neighborhood. So appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak again?
Sure.
Thank you.
I just want to address a few of the things that came up. I know there's some concerns about the growth of the business. I think that's been mitigated by the conditions of the use permit. Clearly, the number of days and the students is all limited strictly through the use permit. If the Elliots were ever to try to have more students or more days, they'd have to come back for a new use permit, an amendment to this use permit, a whole new process. So there can be no growth of the business without your permission. So I think that's been taken care of. I want to point out there's no precedent that's being set when you approve a use permit. Every use permit is evaluated on its own. I'm a former city attorney for the city of Surprise, and this issue used to come up a lot. Well, Jeff, every time we do this, are we setting a precedent? No. You evaluate every case on a case-by-case basis. So the next time you get a use permit, you go through the same analysis. A person doesn't have a right to get a use permit just because somebody else got a use permit. You do the same analysis. So there's absolutely no precedent being set any time that you approve a use permit. Home-based businesses are a right of everybody who has a home in the city of Peoria, as well as almost all of Maricopa County. There's millions or thousands of home-based businesses, and this is no different. There's piano lessons, there's daycares, there's you name it, there's home-based businesses. And every one of those home-based businesses, they do make money, but they want to do it in a residential setting at their home where they live, in a smaller setting where they can still live and provide that service. And this is no different. This isn't unique. We're not turning this into a commercial center. This isn't a commercial operation. This isn't spot zoning. This is simply a home-based business that the staff's done a good job of evaluating pursuant to the code, and came up with a determination that it definitely fits within all the staff parameters and all the city codes. And again, we just ask that you approve the use permit today. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
This is John Lanzarotta. He wanted to. I need to get some guidance on this.
Madam Chairwoman, at this point, because you haven't moved on to take a motion for a vote or anything, I think you still could consider the public comments.
Okay, fine, thank you. Then could I ask Don Renzato to come up and speak? Thank you. And when you come up, could you please state your name and your address?
Sure, thank you very much. My name is John Lanzarotta. My address is 14745 North 81st Ave in Peoria, 85381. I apologize. Some of you saw me with my one-year-old son and wife. I had to run home and put him to bed and then come back. So I really apologize. Thank you very much for all of your important work. Really appreciate you folks allowing us to have public comment tonight. I'd just like to express my opinion on the matter. I had read in the slide presentation, quote, that a majority of the students have been family members and will carpool together. Understood based on past experience of the existing business, but I wonder about a guarantee as to whether this trend will continue in the future or whether the CUP would be made contingent upon a certain element of carpooling and how that would be measured. Just something to think about. Also, another quote in the slide presentation, commercial businesses are located in the immediate area, most being on either 83rd or Bell or Thunderbird, but not within our slice of residential heaven that is that little ranchette area. It's primarily a residential area. My wife and young son and I live 3 houses south of the property in question. We have horses, we walk around. There is a significant amount of cut-through traffic from Greenway currently, and we certainly, don't want to deal with excess traffic with little kids running around, especially my 1-year-old who I'm a bit attached to. My personal opinion regarding the instructor's skills, which are quite significant, I do not personally believe are relevant to the CUP. Some elements that I do believe are relevant is that the instructor could easily have taken the $100K that he used to renovate a residential home and could have instead rented one of the many available commercial properties within a few blocks, Bell, 83rd, Thunderbird, with sufficient parking, without 1-year-olds running around, etc. Another suggestion. I guess that, just in summary, thank you very much for your work. Think about the nature of Peoria, Arizona, and what you've been entrusted to do in terms of preserving this award-winning town, why folks like us moved in, good schools, safe, low crime, etc. There are residential areas and there are commercial areas. You just think about what you folks would feel if the residential area you purchased and moved into with your young children were slowly but surely being encroached by commercial properties, excess traffic and whatnot. It ruins the character of a neighborhood and is inappropriate, especially when so many available business rentals are available so close by. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I am now going to close the public hearing. And did any of the commissioners have any questions? Yes. Commissioner Strickland? Oh, Commissioner Loper.
A couple of comments. First off, wow. I'm presume you're the Elliots? Should I have people speak so well of me? And I applaud clearly the values that your students have and have attribute to you in teaching them. Again, if I had 3 people that could speak that well of me, I'd be pretty happy. So hats off to you for that. But the one thing that lacked in everybody who spoke, other than the applicant himself, was any kind of discussion about why the land use was appropriate. Somebody's character or how good or bad they are really isn't the purview of this commission. We look at a land use. Is this land use appropriate or is it inappropriate? And I don't want to take away from anybody who spoke, like I don't think any of us do, but nobody really gave a compelling reason why this would operate well. With that said, I think there was mentioned by the applicant that at one time you actually proposed greater business hours and greater times to have people there and more students. So to me, clearly there's a desire to have this business grow. I would want your business to succeed. I imagine even if you're maybe on the tail end of the career yourself, you would want your son to succeed at it, and you'd want that business to grow. I would want my business to grow. I think that we all would. We wouldn't want to confine it. You bought in a residential area. When you buy in a residential area, there's an expectation, and a couple of the people said it. One guy was in the county. Doesn't matter if you're city or county. You buy in a residential area, there's an expectation that it's a residential area first, and it should remain that way. However, as was mentioned also by the applicant, there are hundreds and thousands of home occupations that go on every day. What makes this one have to go through this additional process is that rather than one person at a time, you're going to have 2 or 3, and you're going to have some traffic. You're going to do the little bit more than most home occupations do. The other thing that is more unique about this, and as I understood correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the CUP is actually tied to the property owner or to the applicant. So in this case, it is tied to you. It's not tied to the land like a zone change or some other things. It actually goes with the person. And people, again, who spoke that are much better than me. We had a peace officer and a firefighter and people that, my hat's off to every day who spoke eloquently about what you've done for them. And so I have no doubt that you'll meet the provisions of what have been put before you. There are 2 things, though, that were mentioned by other people in the public that I think bear out discussing. One was, and I remember my martial arts training, if I stood up, you could see I didn't continue it, and I should have. But I do remember there is a noise element to it. And the one lady spoke about going outside, and people were doing things outside. And I can't remember if there's a stipulation or not that mentions that all activity should be inside. You have a beautiful property. You should be able to go out on your grass and enjoy it. But you're in a residential area, and by going in a residential area, you can't have every benefit that you had as if it was commercial. I go to shopping centers and I see martial arts classes all the time out in the parking lot doing things. I don't believe that's appropriate for this location. And the other thing, I'm throwing this out there, and not to add a mix to everything else, but I'm wondering if in this case it's appropriate to have a time frame. Either a time frame that's approved for and then comes back for renewal, or a time frame so that there's more than just a complaint about it. And I'm trying to remember if it's ever been done in the past or not, and if it hasn't, I think kind of see that maybe it hasn't. I know that you're going to have great policemen, if you will, from the neighbors watching it, but just the same, something that kind of made it come back and forth. I'm just throwing that out there. I otherwise do support the use at this location.
Were you looking for a comment from the staff?
Yeah, please.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I can't recall, at least in recent CUPs, that we've had that kind of condition on it. Yeah.
Okay, fine, thank you. Commissioner Strickland?
Yes, thank you. I too, in listening here today, you are wonderful and your students are great and they absolutely support you. As a homeowner, I can also relate to the people in here that are saying, would I want this in my backyard or my front yard, as the case may be. And I can't answer that. When I first read through this, and I read through the whole thing, and I saw what staff had recommended and the stipulations on it, my initial feeling was, I didn't really think this was a good plan. But when I read through everything staff had done, I felt you were at least putting enough stipulations on it that we could, make sure it didn't get out of hand. But again, the comment that you initially wanted it to be bigger, and now you're willing to have it smaller, is that going to change? Do you really want something bigger, and then you're going to say, we want it more, and that's not fair to the homeowners in the area. That's just my comment. But staff, you've done a great job. You all have. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Yes, Commissioner Lewis?
Madam Chair, thank you. A couple of the people had brought up, would you want this in your backyard, and how would you feel if you were sitting here and this was coming in your neighborhood? And I just want to say, probably like all the members of the commission, we all live in the city of Peoria. We're all residents, and that's exactly how I look at every case that comes before us here. Every case I look at that. If this was in my neighborhood, how would I feel? And I can appreciate everybody's feelings on both sides of this. I can understand how you feel. And I always look very closely as to the amount of work that staff puts into this as far as mitigating the potential problems and the issues that are raised by the neighbors. The process that we have in place in the city of Peoria requires them to give notice to people who are going to be affected by it and to allow for public comment. And then it goes back to staff with the applicant to try to mitigate some of the issues that come out. And I have to say, I'm very proud of staff this time. I think you guys did a really, really good job of mitigating that, of reducing the size, reducing the number of days that this will actually go on in the neighborhood, the hours of operation, the amount of cars coming in the neighborhood. I don't see that as being a huge issue. I know when we get cases before us that are like in-home child care centers, those always get my attention because there is a lot of traffic, there is a lot of noise, there is a lot of other things that can impact the neighborhood. I think with all these stipulations that you've put in place that the applicant has agreed to, I think this is going to end up being good for this neighborhood. I don't think it's going to impact it negatively at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Yes, Commissioner Lewis?
Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Just an observation. I don't live too far from where the Elliots have their home, and I agree that it was, before that they purchased the home and moved into it, it was not well cared for, let me put it that way. But also, it seems to me that there's a certain amount of commercial activity that one can associate with a church. I don't mean commercial in the sense that they're selling a product, but at the same time, the numbers of people and traffic in the area, what have you. At the end of Country Gables, down towards 83rd Avenue, there are, I believe, 2 churches. At least there is one that's now with 2 churches in one building. And it wasn't too long ago that they were holding various jazz festivals and bake sales or whatever. And in my opinion, that is not much different, even though it's a church, than a commercial activity. The church across the street from the Elliots is, I think they meet at least twice a week. One being a Sunday night, I don't know what the other day, a Wednesday or a Thursday or something like that, for a Bible study. And there are a lot of cars that go in there, and they've got a huge parking lot, and that overflows onto the street as well. And I don't know if there was opposition to the churches going in, and some of them have been there for quite a while and what have you. But from my perspective, I think also that the staff did a fabulous job in going through in detail, knowing that we were going to be here listening to the pros and cons of this. But it's hard for me to vision how so few students and such a small facility would really measurably in any way add to the traffic that's there or to the outside people coming in that would come from all over the place to go to these various churches that are there. So from my perspective, thank you, staff. It's, I think it's an addition to the area. That's a personal opinion, and I know it fairly well. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Loper, did you have another comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question just for staff. Changes in the stipulations. If the applicant came back and they said, you know what, we'd like to have an extra hour, we'd like to do it, does that go back through the same process?
Madam Chair, members of the commissions, yeah, that would require an amendment to the conditional use permit, which would require them to go back through the conditional use permit public hearing process.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hutchinson?
This question is for staff. The response to complaints, what would be the timeline? If there was a complaint about the activities at the property, bring us through a scenario.
Madam Chair, members of the commission. So as I mentioned earlier, with the use permit, the city has continuing jurisdiction. So if we received a complaint, we're going to go out and investigate the complaint and see if there's validity to it. If there is some validity to it, we're going to work with the property owner to amend that complaint and make sure it doesn't happen again. If this becomes a recurring problem, then the staff, the city has the ability then to bring the use permit back to the commission for consideration or revocation of that use permit.
Not to be too detailed, but can you make it a little bit more defined on that recurring?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, it's hard to speak to a scenario here, but I think we would look to the nature of that complaint. We would want to work with them immediately to have that corrected immediately. We would probably enter into some reasonable time frame to have that corrected, right? And watch it so it doesn't occur again. If it occurs in a time frame that's pretty immediate, we would want to meet with them again and see why that infraction occurred. If we felt that this would continue to be a problem, then that we might make the decision to want to take the conditional use permit back to the commission for reconsideration. But it all depends on the nature of the infraction and what kind of cooperation we get with the applicant on that.
Commissioners, anything else? Did you have a question? Okay. I do have a question, and that is, I didn't really think about this until one of the speakers brought it up tonight, and that is the sound level. And I know that, there's so many decibels you can have of sound, and somebody making these noises probably will never approach that sound level. But I suspect it would be disruptive if I was outside to hear this continuously. I guess when I read over the proposal, my first thought was that it was all going to be taking place inside the structure. And is this limited to inside the structure? So they should not be having classes outside at all? Okay. And if they did have a class outside, that would be a violation?
Madam Chair, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion? Then I'd like to have a motion. Commissioner Loper?
Madam, excuse me, Madam Chair, I would move for approval of CU 14-0006, if I'm reading that correctly, subject to the stipulations outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. And could I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
Thank you. I'm going to call the roll and have people vote. Commissioner Strickman?
Yeah, I accept, yes.
Yeah.
I passes.
Thank you.
Whatever I say.
It's yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Spranker?
Yes.
Commissioner Loper?
Yes.
Hutchinson?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
And Nancy Golden, yes. The motion passes. We are going to take a quick break while we move on to the next piece of business. Those of you who are here in the audience, you're certainly welcome to leave if you'd like. Thank you.